I am fully aware of the fact that this is going to be a very low effort video, and that's fine. This is a hydraulic press. I'm too much of a weenie to actually stand in front of it when it's running, so we're going to build a shield. Going over the materials we're going to be using today. Firstly, we got 3 pieces of 1/2 inch by 48 aluminum angle iron, 1 piece of 1/2 inch by 48 aluminum flat bar, 1 piece of 3/4 by 1/2 by 48 angle iron, 1 piece of 3/4 by 48 flat bar, 4 pieces of 3/4 by 1/2 inch by 36 aluminum angle iron, and 4 pieces of 3/4 by 36 flat bar. And then we also got a big 48-inch by 96-inch piece of polycarbonate. If you've made it this far, you're probably wondering, why a big shield? Well, I do plan on using my hydraulic press a lot in the future for experimenting with things like small batch injection molding and using them to manufacture a set of tank tracks. Subscribe so you don't miss that. And I would also plan to film some things that could potentially fail catastrophically. And I think you'll agree that getting sprayed with molten plastic or metal fragments is not very much fun. So I decided to build a big polycarbonate shield instead of just buying one. Alright, we got the base plate aluminum riveted on, and then we got the one top rail riveted on. Let's get the whole sheet of polycarb flipped around so we can do that side, and then we'll work on cutting it and riveting the top, and then we'll put the legs on. The only other tool I'm using besides a drill and a set of drill bits to build this polycarbonate shield is a Harbor Freight Chief air over hydraulic rivet gun. It makes slamming in big pop rivets a lot easier, especially if you have a good shop air compressor. I would recommend getting one if you do have a decent air compressor. I am going to use a oscillating multi-tool just with a carbide blade to cut the polycarbonate, as using a skill saw or a like sawzall type saw on polycarbonate doesn't really work very well. It's not my straightest line, but it is June, so off camera, I finished the top, and then I also added this little reinforcement bar between the sides on this side, and I'm getting ready to drill out these 2 rivets and add another reinforcing bar right there. So I'm going to show you that, but I just figured I'd talk about it now. The reason I added that little reinforcement plate is it was flexing more than I thought was safe on the area where the joints overlap, or rather butt up against each other. So I went out to the shed, grabbed some scrap aluminum, and then cut it to length, drilled out the old rivets, and then riveted in some new pieces, and that seemed to have fixed the stability problem. Other than that, riveting the feet on was super easy. Okay. It is like 10 o'clock at night, so I am not able to go out and get more aluminum, but you can see the whole structure is taking shape. Just need some reinforcement gussets here on the corners, and then it'll pretty much be done. So I'm going to catch back up tomorrow. Make up whatever excuse you want for why I didn't set the camera up to record me putting these on, but you didn't really miss much, just cutting them, bending them, drilling, riveting, nothing you haven't seen already. But now it's time for the best part. Other side. Peel the protective coating off. Time-lapse shot. I think we can all agree that peeling off the protective coating of anything is one of the most satisfying things you ever do. This sheet of polycarb was actually already scratched in several different places when I got it, so I did get it at a slight discount. So I knew I was going to be using it for something that it would get scratched a lot, so I'm not too concerned about it. Should serve me pretty well. Now let's load it up on the trailer take it to the shooting range. Bro. Spam callers. Now, let's load it up on the trailer and take it to the shooting range to see if it's actually bulletproof. If you thought I was actually going to be shooting the shield we just made, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we are going to be shooting the leftover piece of polycarbonate just to see what happens, because I want to fill runtime of this video. You'll have to apologize for the wind noise. I didn't realize my lapel mic was dead until I got out here and started filming, but let me take you over to the table and show you what we've got. Laid out on the table here, we have a variety of constitutionally protected projectile dispensers ranging from a literal slingshot all the way up to my Kel-Tec RFB in 7.62 by 51 millimeter NATO. Let's go ahead and get our hearing protection in, and then we can go ahead and start off with the smallest and work our way up to the largest. I'm actually not going to show you all of the shooting that I did that day, simply for the sake of time, but I am going to show you the more interesting highlights and the things that surprised me personally. Good old wrist rocket. To absolutely nobody's surprise, the wrist rocket did literally nothing. I can't even see the impact mark. Wait, that's not true. Hold on. I think I see it right there. That little tiny mark right there was the wrist rocket. All right, on to the next. This is a little spring-powered dart launcher that I got as a free gift when I bought a knife online, and I just wanted to see what it would do. Did a little bit more than the slingshot, but still nothing of note. This is my Imperial Metal Fair pistol in 22 short, and it is the least powerful thing that we have out here today that counts as a firearm. This little revolver has some pretty annoying indexing problems, and that's what you can see me fiddling with it, trying to get the hammer to pull back. Yeah. Aiming for the bottom left. Hang fire. And as is not too uncommon with rimfire ammunition, I did experience a light strike, or a hang fire as it's sometimes called, where the hammer strikes the primer but the charge doesn't go off. I remedied this problem by just pulling the trigger until the cylinder went all the way back around, and then it fired. The plexiglass... Pause. This is not plexiglass. It is polycarbonate. It is off-brand Lexan. Was actually able to stop the 22 short. I see the impact mark right there, and I feel it just slightly. Let me load up another shot and take another whack at it just to be doubly sure, but that means it is technically bulletproof. Next, I want to shoot some triple B 410 buckshot out of my Taurus Raging Judge, just to bridge the gap a little bit between 22 short and 22 long. The shotgun pellets left a very clear, distinct mark. But while I'm here, I'm going to angle the plate more. As you can see, it is angled slightly, but I'm going to angle it just a tad bit more to prevent anything from bouncing back and hitting me directly. Now we are going to shoot the venerable 22 long rifle. out of my classic Rossi. I don't remember the model right off the top of my head. Aiming for the top right. That one punched right through because I saw the puff of dirt on the back. Well, good old 22 long rifle punched right through. But we're not going to stop. I brought all these projectile dispensers out here. I'm going to shoot them. I think you guys would enjoy it, and I most certainly will. The polycarb wasn't able to stop the 22 LR, but it might stop a 25 ACP. This is my Beretta Jetfire in 25 ACP. Very interesting indeed. It did actually stop the 25 ACP. It did not penetrate all the way out the back. That is actually super interesting that 22 LR punched all the way through, but 25 ACP didn't. They are extraordinarily ballistically similar from a muzzle energy standpoint. This one is a bit of a wild card. This is my 1858 Remington replica loaded with a 44 caliber round ball. This one might punch through, but it's a large surface area with not a lot of velocity, so we shall see. In the top left. Yep, punch straight through. The 44 caliber 1858 punched all the way through and left a nice big hole right there. Black powder pistols are always fun. If you have a chance to shoot one, highly recommend it. Next, we are going to shoot some good old double-aught buckshot 12 gauge and then follow it up with a 12 gauge 1 ounce slug. As much of an angle on these fucking pellets as possible. Clear. I did actually lose track of where the slug went after I cleared the weapon, and that's what you can see me on the ground here rummaging through the grass. I was trying to find that slug because it was light green and it blends in with the grass. Yep. Double-aught bucket did it. Let's go get her set up and see if the slug... Let's go get it set back up and see if the slug will do the same thing. Does really go to show you how exaggerated the spread of shotgun pellets is in video games. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And all about the size of my hand, and that was 15 yards with the largest choke that a shotgun can use, a cylinder. Very interesting that it completely knocked the cinder blocks and the polycarb off the table. Let's see if the slug will do the same thing. Back with the old 12 gauge, we got a 1-inch rifled Foster slug. We're gonna see if we can't knock the polycarb off the table again. Well, we didn't knock it off the table, but we did put a big old stinking 12 gauge size hole in it. To give her a final send-off, let's see if we can't knock it off the table one last time with some number 8 12 gauge bird shot. We aren't going to talk about the fact that a straw hat randomly appeared on my head in this shot. I had it the whole time, I just completely forgot. "12 gauge, the solution to all of your problems."